Season 4 of Ferrari Challenge Japan. We once again start the year at one of the headline events of Japanese motorsport. This is Suzuka. This is the Japanese Grand Prix weekend. And what a way to start the 2026 season here in front of huge packed out grandstands and what will be a very entertaining race. I am quite sure of it. Here is your starting grid. Akihiro Suzuki starting this one on pole position. He's alongside Yamatatsu on the front row. Isosaki there in third position. Keep an eye on him as we roll through the order. Keep an eye on Alex Fox as well in 16th position. Fox is always one to watch, as is Coldmax down there outside the top 10. Tak Shaw, another one to keep an eye on from 23rd on the grid. Bamboo Maeda, one of the most exciting names on the grid. Let's see how he performs from 25th position. As you can see, a hugely strong grid as always for the season opener. A total of 32 cars set to do battle here at the legendary curves and corners of the Suzuka circuit. We are about ready to go racing, and Akihiro Suzuki, the man starting this one from pole position. Ferrari Challenge Japan always offers thrills and spills at this circuit. The unique combination of flowing corners, of blind apexes, of hairpins, of long straights. This is a circuit that demands the most of its drivers at all times, and they're going to have to give it everything today. Here you see the circuit from above. That first sector, of course, the famous S's, the Degners following that. And then, of course, you've got the famous hairpin, the spoon curve, 130R. And then that triangle, the final chicane, which is a great outbraking zone, a great opportunity to do some overtaking. And we've seen lots of intense side-by-side battles there over the years, and you can see there the amount of elevation change from the bottom of the circuit to the top. It is a very hilly venue. Of course, you've got that unique feature that is the crossover point. We don't have that in a lot of places around the motorsport world, of course. In the early years, when they were visualizing the concept of the Suzuka circuit we know today, they were even considering 2 crossover points. They went for just one, understated venue ultimately compared to its concept. The Suzuka circuit, steeped in history, steeped in Ferrari history, of course. Ferrari has won world championships here at this venue. The legendary Michael Schumacher has won world championships for Ferrari here at this venue. The Formula One stars of the current day were on hand for a great picture on the main straight with the current drivers of Ferrari Challenge Japan. They joined the grid shot, Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. And walking among legends and giants are Ferrari Challenge Japan competitors, and they will be wanting to etch themselves into the history of this series. As we alluded to, the 4th year of Ferrari Challenge Japan. However, Ferrari Challenge and Ferrari as a brand in general in the Asian region, of course, has so much history and legacy behind it. Before Ferrari Challenge Japan, there was the Asia Pacific Series, and that was very popular. Of course, last year was the first season of the 296 Challenge car, the 3-litre V6 dehybridized 700 horsepower rocket ship that is the Ferrari 296 Challenge. Last year was the first season of it appearing in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We did have the 488s running with us as well. This is the first season devoted exclusively to Ferrari's incredible 296 Challenge car. Let's run you through the first 3 rows of the grid in total as we continue this formation lap. As we alluded to, Akihiro Suzuki and Yamatatsu on the front row, Motohiko Isosaki, Motohiro Katani on row 2, Zed Falcon, a Shell Am driver, all the way up in 5th position. Shell Am, the slowest class of driver, in theory at least. Copa Shell following that, Trofeo Pirelli Am, the second class, Trofeo Pirelli, the top class, and it is Akihiro Suzuki from the Trofeo Pirelli class who's going to set this one off from the front row. Suzuki has control of the field. Keep an eye on Yasutaka Shirasaki, the Pro-Am driver as well, the Pirelli Am driver, sorry, from 6th on the grid. Phil Kim, last year's Copa Shell champion, another Pirelli Am driver for this year. He's 7th on the grid. We should definitely keep an eye on him as well. We are about to go racing here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. 2x2 formation. They're watching the lights. Usually a fairly long hold here. They like to have as many rows of the grid as possible pointing in a straight lane before they launch into life, and that's what they've done now. We are racing. It's going to be Yamatatsu then around the outside of Akihiro Suzuki, but what a start from the purple machine. It's the purple one at the front, and it is going to be Suzuki in 2nd place. He's going to wonder quite what happened there, that he got such a poor start relative to his closest rival. In 3rd place, there appears to have gone Motohiro Katani. I think Isosaki is down in 4th position. We've got side-by-side action there further back as well. That looked to me like Phil Kim, potentially. No, that's the number 5 car of Kentaro running there from the Trofeo Pirelli class. It seems like we've got a lot of intermingling here among the different classes. Pirelli Am drivers have the white windscreen banner atop their car. That's what you're seeing on the leader, Yamatatsu. In theory, that should operate like an FIA gold rating in other GT racing. These cars, well, these drivers, in theory, should be a step behind the Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Those are the ones with the red banners above their windscreen, but it's not proving to be the case, quite frankly. We've got a couple of Pirelli Am drivers up there at the front, including the race leader Yamatatsu. And then, of course, you've got Shell and Shell Am drivers intermingling as well. Motohiko Isosaki in 4th position. He's a Trofeo Pirelli driver. He should be at the very forefront. He was last year's Trofeo Pirelli Am champion, Motohiko Isosaki, who's also won gold, won championships and honors in Europe as well as in Japan. It does look to me, though, that Yamatatsu, after his flying start, is being reeled in here by Akihiro Suzuki. Suzuki, who's pushing the finer outer limits of the circuit there, coming out of 130R and approaching the triangle. Got to be careful about doing that, I feel. The gap out to 0.6 of a second as they approach the first corner for the 2nd time in this race. It is Katani there in 3rd position. Isosaki has dropped well back in 4th place. Then I think it's Yasutaka Shirasaki in 5th position, the familiar colours of the number 19 car, whereas Zed Falcon ended up at the end of the first lap. Hopefully we'll be able to see that shortly, because Zed Falcon I don't think is there in the top half dozen or so anymore. Looking back through the field here, got some side-by-side action and some committed braking there. I believe that was Alex Fox, was it, in the 139 car. There's the number 17 of Suzuki, who is winched onto the rear of that number 77 car. For Yamatatsu, this would be a golden opportunity and a golden start to racing in this season. He had several top 5s last year running in Trofeo Pirelli Am and claimed a class win at Okayama, but leading the race overall is quite frankly uncharted territory for Yamatatsu. It's the kind of leap forward in progression that makes me wonder quite how much testing he's done over the winter. Has there been some mileage? Has there been some coaching that's unlocked a little bit more from him? Certainly Suzuki got a good run there out of the Spoon Bend. So as they approach 130R, he's closing some more. They now have to launch onto the brakes, the very strong brakes of this Ferrari 296 Challenge car. Of course, brake-by-wire system on these machines, which means you've got to really figure out the modulation. It does take a while for some drivers to figure that out, but the braking strength, once you have it nailed down, is incredibly impressive. The CCMR braking system, CCMR plus brake discs on these cars. And we're getting a look back here at the race start, and certainly it just looked to me as if Yamatatsu was locked in on the lights a little bit better. It looked as if Suzuki was in the process of kind of woeing up as the lights went out, and so he had to scramble for the throttle, and Yamatatsu was already on it by the looks of it. We'll see if anything is judged to be wrong, I suppose, but to me it just looked like one driver was a little bit more on the trigger. Kentaro then is running 6th place behind Yasutaka Shirasaki. Zed Falcon is up in 7th place. I thought Falcon had fallen a little bit further back, but the driver who debuted last year, running well within the top 10 and running comfortably as the leading Shell-Am driver, could well be one to watch. The closest Shell-Am driver is actually directly behind him, and that is Yuliang Chen in the Rosso Scuderia entry, who last year was being coached by two-time Ferrari Challenge Japan champion Yudai Uchida, and I have no doubt that that continues into 2026. I'm yet to see Yudai with his headset on, but it would not surprise me at all if he was there once again talking Yuliang Chen through this race. Akihiro Suzuki. Oh, we have a car into the pit lane. Let's see if we can get the number on that. That's the 110 car of Naoryu, the Corner Shiba entry, and that does not look particularly promising. Unfortunately, never want to see someone in the pits in a sprint race, of course. The crew down there immediately trying to get to work to get him back out there on the circuit. It's his first time in Ferrari Challenge, Naoryu, since 2018 in the Asia Pacific Series, the former GT Asia champion. I expected great things from Naoryu, but we are yet to, unfortunately, see those materialize. Hopefully he'll be back out and up the field for race number 2. We watch on as Motohiko Isasaki is coming under pressure from someone he came into contact with several times last year. Contact metaphorically, the sparring was purely contact-free, but Yasutaka Shirasaki for Rosso Scuderia, last year's Copa Shell champion, is on the move. Rather, 2024 Copa Shell champion, the Doctor, who specializes in heart surgeries. We can always expect him to be good under pressure. And we've seen time and time again since he debuted in Ferrari Challenge Japan back in 2023, we've seen exactly what he is capable of. And that's a steely resolve and determination under that helmet. So expect Shirasaki to keep pushing Isasaki either until the checkered flag flies or until he finds a way past the slightly more experienced competitor. Oh, Suzuki there on the apex of 130R. You could kind of see the car bucking and weaving and bronking underneath him, but he held on to it, and he's using so much more of the road through that section as well, which obviously it is what you're supposed to do. Doesn't seem to be gaining him much over Yamatatsu, who's just very smoothly driving his way around the circuit. I'm searingly impressed with this uptick in form from Yamatatsu, who was consistently a top 10 finisher last year, but overall podiums and race victories overall have certainly, or are certainly, a step above what we'd potentially expect. They continue to work on the 110 for Corner Shiba. We'll see if the car gets out there. Naoryu, I think, still in the cockpit, hoping to get back underway. But Motohiko Isasaki is dropping through the field. Ah, that was a transponder, I think. He's still there in 4th position, but momentarily he was dropping through the graphics, and I had a concern that the number 55 car had a problem. thankfully, he's still out there and still in 4th place. As they apply the power coming out of the hairpin. Of course, 700 horsepower in these Ferrari 296 Challenge cars. They are formidable beasts, but with the advanced traction control and stability aids on these cars, you can leather the throttle and get away with it. But obviously, if you can modulate yourself and control the car yourself, it is that little bit better. It's very user-friendly, but of course the fastest drivers lean into the electronics a little bit less. Akihiro Suzuki was as close as he's been there through the final chicane, through the triangle. The gap is under 0.3 of a second. He's in the slipstream. We'll watch that gap come down and down as they approach the apex of turn 1. He's not going to be close enough for a move into the first corner. Yamatatsu leaves the door open, though, on the inside at turn 2, and Suzuki certainly had a look at it. The Auto Speciale driver doesn't need to be asked twice about things like that. Suzuki, the more experienced driver here, almost 2 decades in racing. That includes Super GT and the flagship GT 500 class even. 48-year-old, really impressive, finished 2nd on 3 occasions last year in a part season effort, but he did not win a race critically in 2025. So now, sitting in 2nd place that he's all too familiar with, he is going to be determined to find his way past Yamatatsu. Under braking for the hairpin once again. You can see Suzuki there arcing a little bit wider at the first phase of the apex to try and straighten out that run up the hill out of the corner. But to no avail. Of course, it's always risky going side by side through this section. Spoon is not the first overtaking opportunity you think of here at the Suzuka circuit, but if it comes to it, I'm sure Suzuki will try and make it work. Yamatatsu again wide of the apex there, but didn't get a bad run out of the corner. However, here comes Suzuki. Suzuki has taken advantage. The corner speed was so far superior from the number 17, and before they even think of the brakes for 130R, it is the 17 car through into the lead. Yamatatsu, as we said, was just too deep into the second apex of Spoon, was really driving at a tighter radius than you have to around the corner by just missing the initial turn-in point. And sure enough, as they work their way down the hill towards 130R, Akihiro Suzuki just breezing past. And now that Suzuki is in the lead, will Yamatatsu be able to respond in kind? Here comes to the inside there, Shirasaki. Isosaki there saw him and decided he was going to take his apex anyway. But this battle coming to a head as well. Keep an eye, of course, on Motohiro Katani also. Katani, who runs 3rd overall at the moment, has the fastest lap of the race critically. So if he can get his way around Yamatatsu in fairly prompt order, then perhaps he can chase Akihiro Suzuki. We get a replay now of the lead change, and again Yamatatsu just scrubbing off some of his speed there on corner exit. At the corner apex he was wide of the curb, and then just to make sure he stayed on track he had to lift out there coming out of the Spoon bend, and that took all of the momentum away. As we get a look there from further back in the pack, Kid in the 51, I think that was, having a little lunge. Yes, it was. Kid in the 51, who I think has switched up his identity on track for this season, but we've known him by other names previously. The Cornez Osaka driver has been noted as a fearless driver over the years. 10 times a race winner in class in Ferrari Japan. Known by his government name. His last name means tower in Japanese, and he's got quite the towering collection of trophies, courtesy of his time in this series. It appears that since the entry list was published, he's decided to go with the identity of Kid. A few good pseudonyms this year. Cold Max, of course, notable in that pantheon. He's running 11th place at the moment. We watch here the battle with Phil Kim fighting for 9th here with Yuliang Chen. And behind them is Cold Max, who we just alluded to, in 11th place in the 15 car. So Phil Kim keeping things interesting here. Great to see him back this season. The Korean has taken great strides since moving into Ferrari Challenge Japan. His first race was here in 2024. Was the Copa Shell runner-up in 2024, was the Copa Shell champion in 2025. We get a replay here of the 137 car. Kento Inami was the 137, and then the car directly behind him having a big off-track moment. Was that Alex Fox? It might well have been. There's the 196 going through. That is Tak Shaw. Unfortunately, the 110 is still limping. They've sent that car back out there, but doesn't seem to quite be on song yet. Here's the battle for second place then, and as anticipated, the fastest driver on track is making strides. Yamatatsu here is under significant pressure. They've got a slow car coming up. You saw the white flag flying, and of course that denotes a slow car on track. We saw the 110 limping back, but thankfully it's got itself into the pit entry before the top three come by. For Yamatatsu, I think the focus has shifted somewhat here from Akihiro Suzuki and trying to reclaim the lead to trying to hold on to second place, because Katani is on the move. Unfortunately, the 110 car still having issues. Naorayu, they'll try and see what else they can do to get the car out. Of course, they want to make sure everyone gets as many laps as they can, even if there are some hiccups going on. 1.6 seconds covering the top three, half a second covering second and third place. Motohiro Katani representing the Auto Cavallino dealership. Of course, in this series, rather than race teams, we have dealerships being represented by the drivers. The cars centrally run effectively by expert Ferrari technicians. It is of immense interest to the teams, or to the dealers, to be strong all season and challenge for the Coppa Dealer trophy. Coppa Dealer, the 5th championship of Ferrari Challenge Japan, after Coppa Shell Am for the newest drivers, Coppa Shell for the drivers just starting to find their footing in racing, Trofeo Pirelli Am for drivers who are fighting for podiums, potentially, certainly fighting within the overall top 10, and then Trofeo Pirelli for the elites, the very quickest drivers of Ferrari Challenge. Those are the 4 classes you see on the circuit, and it's currently a Trofeo Pirelli driver in the form of Akihiro Suzuki in the lead, and you can see there some lap traffic to consider. That's going to be compelling, especially for that battle for second place. Of course, Suzuki could be pushed into this battle by the lap traffic. Yamatatsu and Katani could find themselves on the back of the 17. This could really go any way. With 12 minutes left to go, they're catching traffic now. These last minutes of the race might be somewhat fraught. Top 3 clear. The car taking up the rear fairly easily. That was John Leo. But you can see there the exact perils we were talking about. Suzuki there just making mild contact with, I think that was the 1 2-2 car. No harm, no foul, but Suzuki Ozaki there kind of run out of room. But the top three have cleared that initial cluster of traffic without problems. Albeit a heart-in-the-mouth moment for our leader. There he is. And it is now a pack of three again, rather than one car leading a battle of two. And this ever-present X Factor is going to take them all the way to the checkered flag now that they're in the traffic. And goodness me, Motohiro Katani appears to be operating on the edge there, dipping a wheel into the grass, into the dirt. By the time he turns into 130R, the Pirelli P0 should be nice and cleaned up by the sheer rotations, of course, as he accelerates, I think, towards about 280 kilometers an hour before 130R. Which would translate to somewhere over 160, maybe closer to 270 kilometers an hour, as a matter of fact. But no doubt this car incredibly potent in a straight line, and with over 800 kilos of downforce, 870 kilos of downforce at 250 kilometers an hour. The most we've ever seen from a Ferrari Challenge car. It's very capable in the turns as well, but it's difficult to use that downforce when you've got traffic up ahead, as Akihiro Suzuki is finding out all too well. This could be an opportunity for Yamatatsu. This could be an opportunity for Katani. As they make their way through the end of the S's and now towards the Degnas, they want to get past all three before the second Degna, and indeed they do. An overall overtake there as the 168 powers by. I think that was the 118 car being slightly too generous, Satoru Kako, who we've seen since 2023 in Ferrari Challenge Japan, but just lifting out of the throttle to let the top three through, and then the driver he was fighting, the 168, says, well, I don't mind if I do. And Michael Ung quite right to do so. The Hong Kong-based driver making up a position effectively for free there, as the 159 car ends up in the gravel. It's got one wheel in the gravel. If he's very careful on the throttle, that's Bamboo Maeda facing the wrong way. Thankfully, he got out of the gravel all on his own. Yellow flag is out, being very careful with how he rejoins and where he rejoins in the pack. And thankfully, I think Bamboo Maeda did that about as well as he could. The Corner Shiba car on turn in there, just asking too much, I think. Slamming the brakes down into the turn-in point of the second corner, and then did very well to get back out of the gravel trap. There are your top three. Once again behind some lap traffic. I believe that's Fukui in the 101 car, who again we're familiar with from last year, has raced other GTs prior to debuting in Ferrari Challenge in 2025, so has some awareness of being the back marker. And you saw there, just staying well off the racing line, allowing the lead battle to continue onwards. And there is now something like 20 seconds of track space before another back marker. So that's going to be hugely important, I feel, for Suzuki. We saw there Katani, oh goodness me, running a bit wide there at the top of the S's. He got held up somewhat there. The top two cleared the traffic cleanly. He did not. 119 sporting some damage. That's Hirotaka Nishida. Oh, and we've got a car off the circuit. Who is that? Is that the... It is. It's the Katani car that's fallen through the order. I was hesitant from that angle to positively identify, but it was Katani. Motohiro Katani off the circuit, and we saw him clear that traffic. I think he might have done that all by himself. Oh, the 28 car from Auto Cavallino, third overall. Katani was in with a shout of second, maybe even a victory. But that is all in the past now. And off at the Degnas is never comfortable, and you have to work quite hard, frankly, to get as far as the barriers. Shortcutting Spoon. Is he going to, quite sensible actually, just park the car up, no need to drag it back, kicking and screaming. Oh, and you could just see there on the compression point at the first apex, he went off track, and then it was just a matter of fighting the car through the gravel. He wanted to turn, it didn't agree, found the barriers, but it was just that compression point at the first apex that unsettled the car, sent it just off the circuit. But from that point onwards, Katani was a passenger. That's handed third overall then to Motohiko Isozaki, who incidentally is still under immense pressure from Yasutaka Shirasaki. Shirasaki has not given up at any point in this race. We've scarcely seen the battle for third position, but Isozaki is still under huge pressure from Yasutaka Shirasaki. They're only 3/10 apart on the road. I don't think Shirasaki has gotten through at any point. I don't think they've been exchanging positions, but Isozaki has simply stayed out there and kept Shirasaki at bay. Isozaki, though, now with third place and a podium at stake, I think he might have his work cut out. We saw a brief yellow flag. We've also seen the 51 in, so unfortunately Kidd, who was running well, with an off. Now double yellows up at Spoon. Is that simply because of the Katani car? It's well away from the circuit, so I'd be surprised if that's it. As we see this gap then, it's gone down to 1.1 seconds. I'm very interested in what's going on for third place. We're going to focus in on that now, I believe. Isozaki versus Shirasaki. Two drivers who we've seen perform brilliantly in the past against each other and against the other regulars in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We've got a lot of new faces, as we do every year, especially, of course, in Copa Shell-Am, where most often you have debutant drivers, but the top four, very familiar names. A word to Kentaro running 5th place. I think this is his first ever Ferrari Challenge appearance, the 43-year-old who previously raced in F4 Japan. Came 4th in the F4 Japanese Challenge a year or two ago. You can see some damage there to one of the other 296s. That's Kidd's 51 car. So Cornez Osaka driver with damage. That's why he is into the pit lane. There's your race leader, Akihiro Suzuki, who I think at this point is just managing the race, quite frankly. But what about Isozaki? Will he be able to hold on to third position? He's just dropped on my timing screen, and the yellow flag is for him. Isozaki has had a moment at the second Degner. Well, certainly it's the exit of the second Degner where the car is beached, but did he end up there on his own? Isozaki through the first Degner, into Degner 2, yes, all on his own, just lost the rear under braking and through the turn-in phase of the corner. The rear axle locking up underneath him, and an overall podium, a chance to sit in the famous green room and appear in front of the masses on the podium, has fallen away from Motohiko Isozaki. That car is going no further. Yasutaka Shirasaki then has inherited a podium with less than 2 minutes of racing left to go. They might try and cover this with local yellows. Isozaki trying still to find some traction and a way out of the gravel, but I don't see it forthcoming. Natarayu, unfortunately, will have to wait for Sunday to challenge for class honours in Coppa Shell, but the big story comes from Trofeo Pirelli. And last year's Pirelli Am champion moving up a class for 2026. It has not been the start that Motohiko Isozaki would have wanted. There are the leaders coming through and past their stricken colleague. For Suzuki, this is great news for him. It means that Isozaki, of course, will be a non-score. Well, I think he'll be classified. He might still actually get points for third place, actually. But any gain over a driver as experienced as Isozaki will help Suzuki's championship bid in Trofeo Pirelli this year. For Yamatatsu, it's effectively a perfect start. Second overall, but he'll score maximum points in the Pirelli Am Championship. Last year, his debut Ferrari Challenge Japan season, but you wouldn't have known it looking at his result sheet, and he will be delighted with second place. 20 seconds left on the clock, so I think we're just about going to get one more lap of racing here. Although, given there's a car in a dangerous position, they may elect to fly the checkered flag this time. Keep an eye on the gantry. No, it appears we are going to get the full quota. The clock hit 0. So we believe this will be the final lap. There is usually a +1 lap in play, but I don't believe that was stipulated on the timetable for this weekend. In fact, yes, it was 30 minutes +1 lap. So this is actually going to be the penultimate lap of the race. My apologies. We saw there Yamatatsu running wide and taking some strange lines through the S's. It looks as though that's just starting to fade a bit, potentially. Maybe he's taken the best out of those Pirelli P0s. You'll remember that at the start of the race, he strode away from the 17 of Suzuki, and if you're doing that on the first lap, that tends to mean you're asking a bit more of the tyres as they come to life underneath you through that tyre warming phase. The gap has come down massively, though. Lap traffic, I think, causing a hiccup, and perhaps this one isn't over yet. Yamatatsu, 0.6 of a second between them. Yamatatsu maybe has been handed an opportunity. By my reckoning, this should be the penultimate lap of the race, so in theory there's one more lap to go here. A word to Zed Falcon in 5th position. The Coppa Shell Am driver, who certainly last year didn't come anywhere near overall top 5s, but I think Zed Falcon, another one on the list of drivers who potentially has done a bit of testing over the winter, and some serious driver development as a result. Will they throw the checkered flag? Yes, they will. The race comes to an end. Akihiro Suzuki for Auto Speciale crosses the line to win the first Ferrari Challenge Japan race of the season. Yamatatsu takes 2nd overall and wins Trofeo Pirelli Am ahead of fellow Pirelli Am class runner Shirasaki in 3rd place. Kitano finishes 4th, and then what about this? Shell Am runner Zed Falcon in 5th place. What a drive from him. Phil Kim all the way up to 6th position in Trofeo Pirelli Am, ahead of Cold Max in 7th. Then it'll be Lu Yangchen in 8th position in the 193. Yu Liangchen well in the top 10. That's good effort from him. Fell back from that battle between Kim and Cold Max that he was in previously. A drag race to the line there between, I think that was the 199 and the 154. So that would be Kembo and Koji Yamamoto rounding out the top 10. Formation flying as the rest of the field comes across the line. There, I think, is the Coppa Shell winner ultimately coming across the line. That will be, it It would be Kenbo, actually, who wins in Copa-Shell. The plain white car with the yellow banner that we saw was Alex Fox, the Frenchman. Fox, who finished in 12th place to take second in class there. A good start to his season. He, of course, won the Copa-Shell AM class last year and has moved up to Copa-Shell for 2026. But the first win of the season, Akihiro Suzuki will have a big smile on his face. He will be beaming from ear to ear. The driver of the 17 rolls past the support paddock. The top three drivers will be guided towards the pit lane, the main pit lane. In fact, it looks like more of the field is being taken down there. Whether we're going to get a full quota of 4 podiums, I'm not quite sure what the procedure is scheduled to be. I'm not privy to such highbrow information. In previous seasons, I know that we've had an overall top 3 podium. Usually at Ferrari Challenge Japan events, there is no overall podium. They do a podium for each class, but here at the Japanese Grand Prix, accepting time constraints, we've often done an overall podium, but it looks like we might be having the top 3 from each class. But regardless, getting to experience the atmosphere on that podium is unlike anything else. Suzuki wins then from Yamatatsu, Shirasaki, Kentaro, Zed Falcon, Phil Kim, Cold Max, Yuliang Chen, Kembo, and Koji Yamamoto. Zed Falcon winning Shell-Am from 5th, Yamatatsu from 2nd place winning Pirelli-Am, and Kembo winning the Copa-Shell class. Hirata in 11th, Alex Fox in 12th, Jay in 13th, head of Tak Shaw, Inami, Yihang 10, Lawrence Lau, Matsumoto, Hirota, going down further to Hing Lung in 21st place, Maeda 22nd, Fukui, Ung, Kako, Ozaki, Nishida, John Leo finishing 28th, and Isosaki down in 29th. He will be classified, I think, from 29th overall, but certainly not the race he'd have wanted, facing backwards in the gravel to conclude his day. 32 took the start, 28 took the finish. Impressive in itself at a circuit that's quite famously old school. Not much in the way of tarmac runoff, Spoon and the first corner notwithstanding. But a lot more gravel than your median average Formula One circuit in 2026, and when you make a small mistake, it punishes you in a big way, as we saw from a couple of our more experienced drivers. But a near faultless drive from Akihiro Suzuki. Had to manage traffic, had to manage all sorts going on around him. Had to fight several different drivers, but Akihiro Suzuki has nailed it. And Auto Speciale will claim the first of the season. For Speciale, Auto Speciale and Akihiro Suzuki, this will be the exact start to the season that they would have foreseen. There's Yasutaka Shirasaki with a big smile evident through his helmet. I can't say I'm surprised given the events of his day. Was having that fantastic dice with Motohiko Isosaki, and then unfortunately That came to an end a little bit early. Being a very sporting man, I'm sure Shirasaki would have liked to make that overtake himself to gain that third position. As we see the glory moment for Akihiro Suzuki, the checkered flag flying. And I'm sure just tapping that steering wheel with glee was Akihiro Suzuki. Remember what I said during the race while he was running second? He's finished second on 3 previous occasions. And now he's finally won one. That will mean an awful lot. It looks as though scrutineering this year then is handled down in the main pits, because we've got all of the cars, I think, working their way back into the pit lane, where in previous years it has usually been the overall top 3 only that come down to the main pits. But the huge turnout, as always, of course, for the Japanese Grand Prix. The Japanese fans of Formula One, amongst the most passionate and most colourful that we see. Of course, those famous elaborate hats that a lot of the fans will sport on these weekends. And how great that they get extra action as well from Ferrari Challenge Japan. And we'll be back with more racing action, of course, on Sunday, on Grand Prix Day itself, opening up the Japanese Grand Prix Sunday, one of the great honors that we have every year here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Drivers being summoned towards the podium. And we'll hopefully see those podiums very soon. And again, be interested to see whether we do an overall podium, whether we're having class podiums. It's a slight break from the norm to do a class podium, but if we do have the time allotted to us, it's fabulous for more of our drivers to just experience that energy. Sit in the green room where you see the elites of world motorsport debriefing their race often. And then to walk out there and hear the cheer of the fans. It's a sensation quite unlike anything else. And there we are in the famous green room. What a feeling that must be. We've seen our drivers before kind of taking it all in and feeling a bit surreal, like, wow, we're in this room, we're getting to look back at the highlights package, just like we see week in, week out on the Grand Prix coverage. All 3 parties locked into this. Yamatatsu liking the fact that we're seeing a shot of him leading the race, but perhaps not liking that moment as much, the moment that Suzuki sidled past on the run down to 130 up. We'll get some answers to questions, such as what happened to Katani. There's your answer. Interesting that they're all locked in. Not too much discussion, just watching it happen. But what a race from Akihiro Suzuki. Really did everything right in that race. You can sometimes spot areas where a driver could have won by that little bit more if things had fallen a certain way, but no, that was just about perfect. Of course, there was that moment under yellow flags where he got somewhat held up by a back marker who was trying to get out of the way, but that notwithstanding, It was an electric performance from Suzuki. It was the overall top 3 there in the green room, so I think we are going to get an overall top 3 podium as opposed to the standard procedure of 4 podiums for the 4 classes. Some young Ferrari fans there taking in the excitement of Ferrari Challenge Japan and those incredible Ferrari 296 Challenge cars. The 700 horsepower machines with, of course, dehybridized power units. It's not the hybrid motor that we have in the road-going 296. Of course, it's the same engine, but there is no hybrid in consideration. Delivering 700 horsepower combined with 870 kilos of downforce. It's an incredible machine. And these drivers are always, I think, on the edge of their seats racing these cars. Yasutaka Shirasaki Yamatatsu and Akihiro Suzuki will be making their way up. In fact, I think this is a class podium. If I'm not mistaken, that is not Akihiro on the top step. So by my reckoning, that was the Pirelli AM top 3. That's Phil Kim there. You can see the Korean flag being displayed. I believe that's Phil Kim for 3rd place in Pirelli AM. That's Yasutaka Shirasaki and Yamatatsu on the top step. So I think that's a Pirelli AM podium, if I'm not mistaken. And indeed, the Pirelli award would denote that it is one of the Trofeo Pirelli classes. Here's we've had a Pirelli AM podium there, as opposed to an overall. So will we see Trofeo Pirelli out there as well, is my question. Certainly it would be great to see Akihiro Suzuki climb to the top step. We are going to get some champagne sprayed, though, of course. Big celebrations down there. That's certainly the top 3 from Pirelli AM. Whether it was supposed to be or not, I'm not sure, but certainly displaying the Korean flag for Phil Kim would suggest that that was a scheduled Trofeo Pirelli AM podium. Now, hopefully, we get to see some of our other classes perform as well. Trying to figure out how to get off the podium there. There was some collective discussion. Now, do we have more drivers in our cool-down room? Will we get to see them celebrate? I think potentially we are unfortunately not going to get the chance. The fans making their way away from the stands then to get ready for the afternoon's action, of course, qualifying to come, but they've started their day with Ferrari Challenge Japan action, and they'll do the same on Sunday. We look forward to race 2, but congratulations to our winner, Akihiro Suzuki, the first winner of 2026 in Ferrari Challenge Japan.